Hi everybody, welcome to Live Blogger. In this tutorial series, we are designing this portfolio website from scratch using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Now in the previous video, we designed this brand section and this portfolio section over here. Now in this video, we will design the next section, which is this My Design Process section. So let's get started. Right, here's my source code, and let's go to the HTML file and let's scroll down. Let's go to the end of the section, and this is the project section. So let's create a comment and let's type end of projects section. And now let's create a new section called process, and this is the process section. Now for this also we will add a wrapper division so that everything is inside a specific max width. And let's add an h2 and let's type My Design Process. And if you go to our website, here we can see we have our heading. Right, now the next thing we need to do is we need to create these two sections over here. So we have this left section where we have this paragraph and this button, and on the right side we have this UI for the process. So let's go back and let's go to our HTML file. Let's create a new division with a class of content. In this we'll have a left division, and in that we will have a paragraph. And let's copy this paragraph from here and let's paste it over here. Now after the paragraph we need to have a button, so let's create an anchor tag and let's give it a class of btn. And since this is a dark button, let's also give it a class of dark, and we will style it differently. And here for the button we need to add this text of start your project. So let's type start your project. And let's add the icon for the button. So I'll just copy this span from here, from the other button, and let's paste it over here. Now we need to have the white icon. So let's change this to right arrow white.svg. After this we need to have another section where we have this timeline. So let's go outside this left division and let's create a division with the class of timeline. Now in this timeline we need to have different timeline items. So let's create a division with the class of timeline item. Now in this we need to have a dot on the left side and the content on the right side. So let's create a division with the class of timeline dot, and we'll style it using CSS. And let's create a division with the class of timeline content, and let's add this content. So we have discovery and research. And let's copy this timeline item, and we need to paste it 4 more times. So let's paste it down here. And for the second one we need to type concept development. So let's add that over here. And then we need to have design and refinement. And then we need to have finalization and delivery. And then lastly we have post-launch support. So now if you go back to our website, here we can see all the content are being displayed over here. Right, now let's go to the end and let's create a comment. Let's type end of the process section. And let's add the CSS for this. So let's go to the style.css file and let's create a new comment, and let's type process section. And the first thing we will do is we will add this background image over here for this process section, and we'll also make it a parallax effect. So for that let's go back over here and let's target the main section, which is this section with an ID of process. So let's type hash process, and first of all let's set the background color to RGBA, 255, 255, 255 and 0.9 for the opacity. And let's set the color of all the text to black. Right, now for the image we will use a before selector. So let's type hash process colon before, and for the content we'll just leave it blank, and we will add some CSS to add the image here in the background. So first of all we need to set the position of this process section. to relative so that we can add a position of absolute over here. And let's set the inset to 0 so that the left, right, top and bottom positions are set to 0. And now here we need to add the background image. So let's tap background image and let's set it to URL. And here let's tap images / and we have an image called sectionbg.jpg. And let's add some more properties for the image. So let's tap background size cover and background position, and let's set it to center. And here we can see we have the image, and let's also set the background repeat to no repeat so that it doesn't repeat. And let's also set a background attachment to fixed so that if you scroll up and down, the image stays there. So in this way we have this kind of parallax effect. Now we'll also set a z index of -1. So let's tap z index -1. And now we can see that we can slightly see the image behind our section. So this is exactly what we want. Right, now the next thing we will do is we will make these left and timeline divisions one next to the other. So if you go back, here we can see we have this division with the class of content, and in that we have the left and the timeline divisions. So let's target this content division inside the process. So let's tap #process content, and let's set the display to flex, and let's add a gap of 40 pixels. And let's type justify content space between so that the items are all the way to the left and the right. So this is how it looks right now. Now for the left section we will have a max width. So let's tap process left, and let's add a max width of 700 pixels. Right, now let's style this button. So for the button we have added this class of dark. So let's go back to the style.css file and let's go to the styles of the button. And here we already have the styles for the button outlined. Let's add one more style and let's tap button.dark. And let's add a background color of var dark color. And let's set the color of the text to white. And this is how the button looks. So we have the left section designed perfectly. Now let's style the right section, which is the timeline. So let's go back to our CSS, and here let's target the timeline. So let's tap .timeline, and let's add a padding of 8 pixels and 30 pixels. And let's set a min width of 300 pixels. So it will have at least 300 pixels of width. And let's add a margin top of -80 pixels. So now we can see that this timeline is displayed along with this heading on the left side. Right, now let's add a vertical line over here for this line that you see over here. So for that, let's go back, and we will use a before selector for that. And before that, let's go ahead and set the position of this timeline to relative. And here let's type timeline : before, and let's set the content to blank, and let's set the position to absolute. And let's set the left position to, let's try 7 pixels, and top position to 0. And let's set the height to 100% of this timeline. And let's also set the width to 1 pixel. And let's add a background color of #0e, C20e. And now we can see we have this line on the left side. Now let's go ahead and style each of these individual timeline items. So for that, let's go back to our CSS. And for the timeline items, we have this division with the class of timeline item. So let's target those divisions. So let's type timeline item. And for the timeline item, we will set a margin bottom position of 35 pixels. And this is how it looks. Now let's also add these dots that we see over here. So we will add those dots relative to these timeline items. So here for the timeline item, let's also add a position of relative. And for the dots, we have this division with the class of timeline dot. So let's target that. I'll just type .timeline dot. And here let's set the position to absolute. Let's set the left value to -30 pixels. And let's set the width to 15 pixels. And let's set the height to 15 pixels. And let's set the border radius to 50% so that it has a round shape. And we also need to add a background color. So let's tap background color and let's set the value to 0EC20E. And here we can see we have these dots displayed over here. Now we need to display these dots at the center vertically. So for that, let's set the top position to 50%. And now it starts from the center. So we also need to add transform translate y of negative 50%. And now it is exactly in the center along with the timeline items. Right, now let's add some styles to the timeline content. So here we can see inside the timeline item, we have this timeline content. So let's type timeline content. And let's set the color to 333, which is dark gray. And let's set the line height to 1.5. And let's also add a padding of 5 pixels top and bottom, 0 for left and right. And here we can see at the end we have a lot of height for the line. So we will target the last timeline item and we'll just remove the margin bottom that we added over here. So here we can see we have added this margin bottom. So let's type timeline item colon last child and let's set the margin bottom to 0. And that looks alright. So with that we have styled our timeline section as well. And we can also see that we have this line extending above these dots as well. So if you want to keep it like this, you can just keep this code as it is. But if you want to have the line start from here, you can just add the specific height that you need. So let's go to inspect and let's go to the before selector of the timeline. And here we can see that we have set the height to 100%. So we can add a calc over here and we can type 100% minus a specific value. So let's try 40 pixels. Now we can see that we have less height. Let's increase it a little bit. So let's try 50 pixels. And now we can just go ahead and change the top value. Let's set it to 24 pixels and I think that looks alright. So in this way we can control the height of this line. So we need to change the top to 24 pixels and the height to this value. So I'll just copy these two values from here. And let's go to our source code and here for the before selector, I'll just replace these two lines over here. And now we can see we have the correct line as we have in our design. So with that we have styled our timeline section for our website. Alright, so that's basically it for this video. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below. And if you like this video, please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.